being self-aware or being enlightened. As you grow interest into spiritual concepts such as the law of attraction and calling things into your life, there is this awareness that comes with it. Awareness of the mind, awareness of your own emotions, and becoming the observer of the mind. And why this spiritual enlightenment or awareness is important is because it is the only way to properly deal with negative emotions, to not be subjected to negative emotions anymore, and to really start to live from love and compassion and positivity. And with that positivity, also incredibly intensify your manifestation powers, because with that inner positivity and inner love, you can call in things into your life quicker than ever. So in this video, I'll explain to you exactly, first of all, what awareness is. Secondly, how do you become self-aware? And thirdly, what is the purpose of cultivating self-awareness at the scale of society? Because this is actually why we're all meant to become self-aware. My name is Devi. I am a PhD student in chemical engineering at the University of Cambridge. And in my free time, I love to study all the concepts related to spirituality, law of attraction, quantum physics of manifestation. One topic that cannot be left untouched is awareness, self-awareness, or spiritual awakening. This has been a process I have been going through for the past 3 years, I would say. The last 6 months, it vastly intensified and I felt fully spiritual awake, fully spiritual aware. I'll explain in this video how you get there and what this feels like and how you become self-aware and what the purpose is of it. So let me start by explaining what self-awareness is. Living in self-awareness is basically becoming the observer of the mind, becoming the observer of your emotions. And the beautiful thing about awareness is that you're no longer subjected to the negative things your mind sometimes have to offer, or the negative impulse emotions that arise sometimes in you, which is natural, we're human. But living in self-awareness means that you have a certain distance from it. You observe it happening, but because you're aware, you're able to choose your response instead of be subjected to your emotions or thoughts. You're conscious of your own behavior, your own thoughts, and your own emotions, which gives you the choice to choose how you respond and deal with them. I want to explain to you a concept. So currently, the conscious mind is preoccupied by the ego. The ego is the inner critic, the negative voice in your head. The ego generates any type of negative emotion, whether it is anger, whether it is fear, whether it is anxiety, whether it is jealousy. All of these emotions come from the ego. So I want you to get something straight. When I'm talking about ego, I'm not talking about selfish behavior, because anxious people that don't seem so selfish or can be maybe quite quiet are actually in their ego as well. The ego is the occupier of the conscious mind, and we all have an ego. We will never be able to fully get rid of our ego. It is our humanity. It is our software programmed in us to keep us safe. And the other part of you, which is actually your true self, that is your soul. That is the infinite being that incarnated into this body and will exist past this body as well, and only does things from love and compassion. Now, living in awareness is basically about becoming aware of the ego and taking back that seat or that role that you have as your soul. So it is basically about making your conscious mind preoccupied with your soul instead of your ego. And when I say ego, it is any type of negative thought, inner critic, criticism to others, any type of thought rooted in fear. It doesn't mean we will be able to get rid of this. It is only when we live in self-awareness, we will be able to identify our patterns, our negative thought patterns, and able to step out of it and go back to love and compassion, which is the soul. So when we have the frequency chart of emotions, when I'm talking about ego, I'm talking about all of the lower vibrational emotions. And when I'm talking about the soul, I'm talking about all of the higher vibrational emotions. And that's why the highest vibrational emotion is enlightenment. Because if you're living in enlightenment, that means you're fully aligned with the soul. Your soul is sort of your connection to most high frequencies that are available to us in our human emotion spectrum. So the ego, this fear software, inhabits our conscious mind. It is the exact same analogy as the head and the heart. The head would be the ego. The ego likes reason, and that is how it is trying to keep us safe all the time by posing fearful thoughts. If you have anger in you, your conscious mind is occupied by your ego. If you have anxiety and fear in you, your conscious mind is preoccupied by your ego. And why I am hammering this so much is that you need this awareness of the fact that the ego is something that occupies in your mind. It is the voice of reason, it is the voice of criticism towards yourself and towards others. And only when you identify it as this separate entity that is not actually you, only then you can start to reach and grow your self-awareness. Because every time a negative thought arises, every time you criticize yourself or you criticize others, or a thought of fear is presented to you, you need to be able to not identify with it. That is not who you are. That is just your ego. That is just your software that is installed in you, trying to keep you safe. That is not who you truly are, because your soul, your true self, knows anything is possible. Your true soul has faith, only acts from love and compassion towards yourself and towards others. So living in awareness at the core is stepping out of your ego and going back to the seat of the soul, which is a very good book by Gary Zukav, by the way, Seat of the Soul. If you want to know more about this, read that book. And let's move on to the second part of the video. How do I become self-aware? I have divided the journey towards self-awareness in 4 different stages as the way I experienced it. The first stage of becoming self-aware is asking yourself questions. And this is really important. You need to become the observer of your own behavior. You need to become the observer of your mind. Anytime a negative thought arises, anytime a negative emotion arises, you need to ask yourself questions. Why am I feeling this way? What is triggering that in me right now? If you get triggered into negative emotions, it is never the outside experience. It is always something in you that gets triggered. If someone around you is making you angry, don't ever think it is the other person's fault. That is the ego. The ego likes to point fingers outwards. But if something triggers anger in you, that is already in you. Otherwise, it wouldn't make you angry. That anger was already a frequency that you were carrying with you. External circumstances are just put in place to trigger that emotion in you because it wants to be released. Your body actually wants to not live from its ego, and that is why it will go through circumstances that trigger those negative emotions to release them. So every time you experience a negative emotion, it is up to you to question it. It is up to you to ask questions. Where is this feeling coming from? When have I felt this way before? Why is this so triggering to me? And also acknowledge it is your ego that is being triggered, not you, not who you truly are. And why is your ego so triggered? Another amazing practice that you can use to ask yourself these deep questions is meditation. You know, taking some time for yourself, perhaps with some nice music or frequencies in the background, lighting candles, it doesn't matter. Make yourself comfortable and really go within. Focus on your breathing and see what thoughts arise. There's no need to suppress them. During meditation, it doesn't always have to be about inner silence. You can actually also ask yourself questions. Why am I thinking of this? What do I want? What do I want in life? Why are certain things making me angry? What am I scared of? What am I most scared of? And really go to the root of the fear. Because sometimes we can think, oh, I'm scared of going to work tomorrow for whatever reason it is, or I'm scared to do this. But why are you scared? What emotion are you scared of? What are you afraid that will happen? And go deeper. Well, I'm actually afraid that other people might criticize me. Why am I so afraid that other people might criticize me? Well, that has happened before. That made me feel this type of way. When have I felt this before? And go deeper and deeper and deeper and start to fully understand all of your fears at the core. And this is also what they do in therapy, right? They will always go back to childhood memories, or when did the emotion, that negative emotion that you're still currently experiencing in your daily life, when did that start? When did that occur for the first time? I can give myself as an example. I've always struggled with perfectionism and putting a lot of pressure on myself, wanting to get a lot of good grades. When did that pressure start? When did that feeling of wanting to perform well start? And when I really went back to myself, I could recall a childhood memory around when I was like 4 or 5, which is the moment, the first time where I felt this acknowledgement for performing well and feeling special and feeling different. And that feeling is actually what triggered that whole cycle of years and years and years of trying to perform well, trying to get high grades. Because what is that urge? Why do you feel the need to do that? And I'm not judging it. There's nothing wrong with it. But this is about asking the questions to understand yourself better. When did this emotion start? And as you go about your day, anytime you feel anxiety, anytime you feel anger, anytime something annoys you, you need to ask yourself questions. And the beauty about asking yourself questions is that you're already directly stepping into the role of awareness. Because if you are the person that is asking the emotion questions or asking yourself, why are you feeling this way? You're immediately not submerged in the emotion anymore. You're stepping out of it and you're asking yourself, okay, why am I feeling this way? What is triggering this in me? When have I felt this before? And you're already entering awareness. And even if it is for a short period of time and then you feel like, you know, going back to that emotion and submerging in it, it doesn't matter. The sole act of asking yourself questions when negative emotions arise is how you start to cultivate that awareness. And in the beginning, you will do it occasionally. And 5 out of 10 times you remember to ask yourself those questions. It will become more and more and more. Why? Because it will feel good to you. It will feel good to you to become the observer of the emotion instead of being submerged in it. Because that actually hurts. So you're basically becoming your own therapist. And again, if during the day this is hard or you can't really get to the core of it, of why you're feeling this way, then use meditation. Take some time to sit with yourself. Sit with your emotions. Call the emotions in. Call the fearful emotions in and go deeper with yourselves. Why am I afraid? What am I afraid of? What is the worst that can happen? When have I felt this fear before? Second stage of becoming self-aware is getting control over your emotions. And this is a difficult one. And especially when it comes to an impulsive emotion such as anger. When a negative emotion arises such as anger, what you do is you feel the emotion come up. And it's often another person, right, that is triggering that anger in you. And then when you are living in awareness, it is up to you to question, why is this making me so angry? Is this person actually trying to hurt me? Often we get angry at our loved ones for being annoying. Or do they actually have bad intentions at heart? Let me give you an example. Let's say you're getting annoyed at your parents because, you know, they're involved in your life or they're trying to change you or they're trying to say something that you're doing wrong. Take a step back and think, are they saying this because they love me? Are they trying to change me because they actually love me and they want me to do better? And then that takes away the sharp edges of the anger, because then you're like, you know, I don't agree with them, but it's actually not the end of the world and I don't actually always have to agree with everyone. That's another important thing. And they're saying this out of love. So whenever you feel triggered into anger or negative emotion, always try to go back to that other person is probably acting from their ego. So who am I to judge them? Another thing is that if that person is someone close in your life, is they might actually say this out of love, even though they're, you know, right now being annoying and I don't agree with them. They're actually saying this from a good intention. Deep down, they want to help me. That's why they're giving me advice. That's why they're trying to change me, but it comes from a good place. Perhaps distance yourself from the situation. What are you gonna get out of an angry reaction right now? Is that gonna get to the solution that you want? Do you love this person? Do you want to continue having this person in your life? If the answer to that is yes, then there's no point in anger, because you still want to have that person in your life. So just take some distance at that point. Controlling your emotions is about learning how to calm yourself down. And for me, what really helped is first of all acknowledging that everyone else also has an ego. Everyone else is also acting from their ego and ruled by fears and other things. And when I think about that, it makes me judge people less, even when they're, you know, being negative or not behaving in the way that I would like. I'm always like, who am I to judge? They are also living from their ego. They've also been through whatever they've been through. And that's another important thought to remind yourself of. Everyone only acts based on what they've been through. So who am I to judge their behavior? Who am I to say, I don't like the way you're acting right now? Because they're just also acting from their impulses or what they've been through or the way they feel and their feelings. And I respect that. I respect their feelings. So if it doesn't align with who I am, I will just remove myself from that situation. But there's no need to get angry. There's no need to want to agree on everything. Now, when it comes to anxiety and when it comes to being scared of things, I always like to remind myself, what is the worst that can happen? What am I actually so scared of? And when I think of the worst thing, I always think, oh, actually, that is not that bad. And take back that creator energy as well. Remind yourself that you are the creator. If you're scared of something, you're manifesting a bad experience. You're calling in negativity into your life. And the soul, just the observer of the mind, knows that he or she is the creator of life. That he or she can call in things into his or her life. So it doesn't need to be scared. If you're the person that can call in things, there's no need to be scared of anything. You need to also cultivate that manifestation and creator energy in order to not be subjected by anxiety and fears. There's truly nothing you're unable to do. It is just the mind, the ego, and the fear that is in between you and your dreams and goals. So controlling your reactions, especially when it comes to having an argument with someone or a negative interaction with someone else, start to consider the fact that both opinions can exist at the same time. And you don't always need to agree with everyone. They're acting from their experience, ego, and emotions, and you might have your own experience, ego, and emotions. Everyone responds based on what they've been through and based on what they're feeling. And that is okay. You don't always have to feel the exact same way as other people. And especially when it comes to random strangers being angry at you on the street or in traffic, you know, they are carrying that anger with them. And if you look at it in that way, it maybe triggers this feeling of, oh, you know, not feeling sorry, because that sounds a bit condescending then, but at least you feel a little bit of compassion for them. And that is the core word here, compassion. Compassion for others. When others are being negative, when others are being angry, when others are being fearful, lend compassion. They don't want to be angry. They don't want to be fearful, right? That is just something that is triggered in them based on their experience and what they've been through. And actually, if you project love and compassion to them, that will actually calm them down as well. They can actually adhere to your frequency and come along with your vibe if you stay in your calm, love and compassion and confident energy. Also, when things trigger you, always look at the bigger picture. How important is this? This one thing that you're scared of compared to your whole life, this one day, this 1 hour or one thing that you have to do. How big is it? Look at the bigger picture. That is also a great tool to step back into awareness. You know, how important really is it? Sometimes these negative emotions and these fears can feel like the most important thing in the world. But you know that in a year from now, you will not even remember this day that you were scared of, whatever, you know, were triggered into fear for. You won't remember it. So zoom out, look at the bigger picture. This is not that important. And also wanting others to prioritize your feelings over their own is selfish as well, is a form of your ego. No one can think your feelings are more important than their own. That's just the way we're all programmed. And if you want that, that means you find your feelings more important than that other person as well. So really become aware of ego. When you're disagreeing with people, it is your ego. Your ego wants to agree. Your ego wants your feelings to be acknowledged over theirs. They're acting from their ego too, so lend them compassion. You don't always have to agree with everyone. That is unconditional love. Now, the third stage of spiritual awakening, there might be a moment of feeling the need for isolation. And why is this? Because you become very susceptible of not only your own ego, but also other people's ego. And sometimes it becomes hard to deal with humans because everyone, I can tell you, everyone is constantly in their ego. And when you're trying to be self-aware and when you're, you know, stepping out of that constantly and also being aware of other people's ego, sometimes it becomes hard to still deal with people, especially negative people in your life. And some negative people you might need to drop in your life. But for the people that you want to keep in your life, you can actually also, through lending them love and compassion, help them step out of their ego. And that is, you know, spreading your light. Having the patience and lending the love, even when people are acting from their ego, to get them out of their ego and also back into their soul. Because also everyone can be aware. Everyone can step out of their ego. I'll give you a good example of stepping out of your ego. Let's say you're super angry at someone. Sometimes that anger can stay with you for a few days, a week, a year, depending on how, you know, big your ego is. But letting go of that anger is what stepping out of your ego is. And living in awareness is shortening that period. Instead of having a few days or a week to get over your anger, you're giving yourself a few seconds. Because after a few seconds you realize there's no point in being angry. I don't have to agree with everyone on everything. They're acting from their ego. The anger in me, that is also my ego, and I'm distancing myself from it. And this isolation period, why I'm mentioning it is because it is a very natural thing and it can feel a little bit lonely sometimes, right? And that's why I wanted to mention it for people that are going through this spiritual awakening, isolation feeling or period. But it will get better again, because at some point you'll remember that people are not just their ego. They also have their soul and they also have this love and compassion. And if you spread your light, you can lift people up and also help them step more into their soul and love and compassion energies. Now, the fourth and final stage of being aware, having consistent practices. So there have been moments where I felt fully aware, with which I mean I don't experience anger and I don't feel the need to. If my ego gets triggered or negative emotions get triggered, it takes me a few seconds to step out of it and let it go again. Now, if you don't consistently implement practices like meditation or journaling or doing introspection, it is like a muscle. This feeling of awakening can slip away a little bit and you can feel triggered back into old ego, negative emotions. So it's really important to have a consistent practice with meditation, with journaling, perhaps once a day or once every few days, to keep this awareness and awakeness alive, to keep yourself connected to that feeling of enlightenment and that feeling of awareness. The third and final thing that I want to say, what is the purpose of being self-aware at the level of society? So as I said, being aware is about choosing your soul over your ego. It is about choosing love and compassion over fear. It is about becoming the observer and only doing things from love and compassion. Imagine we did this at a societal scale. Imagine we all stepped into our soul, acting from love and compassion instead of their ego. It is the only way we will be able to save the earth, to save the problem of, you know, sustainability, global warming, human trafficking, slavery, wars, being driven by money, hurting other people. This is all coming from ego behavior. This is all coming from fear. If you're living from your soul, you would only take what you need, and with what you get, let's say you're making money, you would also use that to help people instead of destroy the planet. So the only way we stop destroying the planet is if we all collectively step into our soul instead of our ego. If we get leaders at the top, you know, I'm talking about politicians or people that are in charge, that step into their soul energy instead of their ego, instead of money, instead of wanting more, instead of being scared, instead of greed, instead of taking way more than you need, instead of hurting others. This is all coming from the ego. And that is the true purpose of being spiritually awake, and why it is important for people to step into that awareness again. Because if we're doing this globally, that is the only way we will be able to save the planet, save the earth, and fix the horrible things that are going on this earth. Look around us. We are literally everywhere. There are buildings everywhere. We've ruined the planet as much as we can. And there are so many animals that are dying out. But also look at the way we're treating other humans in some countries. And this is all ego driven, because we want more money, because we want more power, because we want more than we actually truly need. And that is not lending love and compassion to the planet and to people around us. And that is why it is my mission as well to be here on YouTube and talk about concepts such as self-awareness and awakening, more and more people will step into this energy of awareness, living from their soul, living from love and compassion instead of fear. The more we can spread positivity and fix all the horrible things that we have done to this planet so far. Thank you so much for listening to me, taking the time to be here. I would love if you leave me a like and subscribe to my channel, or leave me a comment with your thoughts or how you have experienced your spiritual awakening or awareness. I would love to see you in my next video. Sending you my love.